For 500 years, Roman legionaries marched across 3 continents on a single drink. 2 ingredients, issued daily from the general down to the slave carrying his shield. They called it posca. Your kitchen tells the other side of the story. A 20-ounce bottle of Gatorade loaded with 21 grams of sugar. A Brita pitcher that does not remove PFAS from your tap water. A jar of multivitamins that the 2022 Cosmos trial across 21,442 people found did nothing to prevent cancer or heart disease. A cold cup of coffee that will crash you by 3 in the afternoon. 4 shelves, 4 receipts, roughly $2,500 a year to replace a drink the Romans made from vinegar and water. In 2010, Arizona State University published a trial that rewrote what vinegar actually does inside the human body. You can build the Roman ration tonight. But one detail in the process is the difference between a novelty drink and the ration that moved an empire. And until the last 20 years, nobody alive could tell you what it was. In 1965, a team at the University of Florida College of Medicine, led by Dr. Robert Cade, mixed water, sodium, potassium phosphate, fructose, and lemon for the school's football team. They called it Gatorade. The drink solved a narrow, real problem: dehydrated athletes on hot Florida practice fields. Within a decade, the formula belonged to Stokely Van Camp. By the 1990s, it was owned by PepsiCo. Today, the global sports drink market moves roughly $32 billion a year, and most of that volume is not being drunk by athletes. A 12-ounce bottle of the standard formula carries 21 grams of added sugar. The American Heart Association's maximum daily ceiling for an adult woman is 25 grams. 1 bottle burns through the budget before lunch. The American College of Sports Medicine published its hydration position stand in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise in 2007, the document every dietitian references. And it states plainly that carbohydrate electrolyte drinks benefit exercise only above 60 to 90 minutes at moderate intensity. For daily hydration, water with dietary salt is equivalent. You are not rehydrating after a marathon. You are drinking dessert with electrolytes sprinkled on top. The bottled water and filter industry tells a parallel story. Brita standard pitchers carry NSF certification for chlorine, taste, and odor. They are not certified for PFAS removal. They do not remove fluoride. They do not remove arsenic or most pharmaceutical residues. In April 2024, the Environmental Protection Agency published the first enforceable PFAS drinking water regulation in American history. The maximum contaminant level for PFOA and PFOS was set at 4 nanograms per litre. A 2023 study led by the US Geological Survey, published in Environment International, found PFAS in 45% of tap water samples across the United States. A 2020 Duke University study in Environmental Science and Technology Letters tested standard pitcher filters and found they removed roughly half of the PFAS, not enough to meet the new federal standard. Then there is the supplement shelf. In 2022, researchers published the Cosmos trial in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. 21,442 participants, randomized, controlled, 3.5 years of follow-up. Daily multivitamin use did not reduce cardiovascular events. It did not reduce total cancer incidence. The 2012 Cochrane meta-analysis, pooling data from nearly 300,000 people, reached the same conclusion: no protective benefit, and for high-dose vitamin A, vitamin E, and beta-carotene, an increase in all-cause mortality. In December 2013, Annals of Internal Medicine published an editorial from Johns Hopkins and colleagues titled "Enough is Enough." Stop wasting money on vitamin and mineral supplements. Coffee is the last shelf. The average American coffee drinker spends about $1,100 a year on the habit. Caffeine has a pharmacological half-life of 5 to 6 hours. A 2013 study in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that 400 milligrams of caffeine, about 2 strong cups, taken 6 hours before bed, reduced total sleep time by more than an hour. A 2005 paper in Psychosomatic Medicine showed caffeine stacking on top of the morning cortisol awakening response, stimulation at the cost of a measurable crash 4 to 6 hours later. The afternoon flatline is not a personality trait. It is pharmacology. 4 industries, roughly $2,500 a year out of the average household, and here is what nobody tells you. The Romans solved all 4 problems with 1 cup. For 1900 years, the accepted explanation for posca was simple. Roman soldiers could not trust the local water, so they acidified it with vinegar to kill pathogens. The vinegar was a disinfectant. The drink was a field hack. That was the story, and for most of history, it was the whole story. It is partly true. Acetic acid is a verified antimicrobial. A 1998 paper in the Journal of Food Protection by Intani and colleagues showed a 5-log reduction of E. coli, O157, at 0.1% acetic acid within 60 minutes. A 2005 paper in the International Journal of Food Microbiology demonstrated that 2% acetic acid achieved a multi-log kill of Salmonella within minutes. A 2014 study in the journal MBio by Cortesia and colleagues went further. 6% acetic acid killed Mycobacterium tuberculosis in 30 minutes. Posca, diluted roughly 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water, hits the lower working edge of the bactericidal range. On a long march in a canteen for hours, the contact time is there. But the field hack explanation could not account for something else. Roman legions marched 20 Roman miles, about 18 English miles, 29 kilometers, in 5 summer hours, carrying 44 to 66 pounds, 20 to 30 kilograms of gear. Under forced march, they pushed that to 24 miles, about 38 kilometers. Their grain ration was not larger than other ancient armies. Their gear was heavier, their pace was longer. In 1971, Roy Davies published a paper in Britannia titled The Roman Military Diet, still the foundational work on the subject. And he pointed to posca as part of the answer, but he could not explain the mechanism. The biochemistry did not exist yet. Professor Carol Johnston is a nutrition researcher at Arizona State University. For years, she had been studying vinegar in a different context: blood sugar regulation in type 2 diabetics. She kept running into a finding that should not have been there. Small doses of vinegar, taken at the start of a meal, produced reductions in post-meal glucose large enough to rival some diabetes medications. In 2004, she published in Diabetes Care, 20 grams of apple cider vinegar cut postprandial glycemia by 34% in insulin-resistant subjects. In 2010, she published in Annals of Nutrition and Metabolism, extending the effect to healthy adults. 2 teaspoons of vinegar, the exact dose in a Roman soldier's ration of posca, reduced post-meal glucose response by roughly 20% compared to placebo. For decades, vinegar had been filed under folk remedy: peasant drink, salad dressing. Johnston's result did not fit any of those categories. Then the research cascade widened. In 2001, Fushimi and colleagues published in the British Journal of Nutrition. They had fed rats dietary acetic acid and run them to exhaustion. Post-exercise glycogen replenishment in skeletal muscle rose 31%. Glycogen is the body's local fuel store. Spare it on the march, and you have more when you need it. In 2006, a separate Japanese team led by Sakakibara published in Biochemical and Biophysical Research Communications. Acetic acid activates AMPK, the cellular energy sensor, upregulating fatty acid oxidation. In 2016, a team led by Gerald Shulman at Yale published in Nature, Acetate modulates hypothalamic signaling and energy homeostasis. In 2017, a systematic review in diabetes research and clinical practice pooled every qualified trial on vinegar and blood sugar. The effect was consistent across the data set. Here is the mechanism the medical establishment had dismissed for decades, stated at the molecular level. When you drink vinegar with a meal, the acetic acid slows gastric emptying, the rate at which food moves from stomach to intestine. That slowdown flattens the glucose curve. It blunts the insulin spike. It removes the crash that follows. Acetic acid is absorbed, converted to acetate, and fed into the mitochondria, bypassing glycolysis and providing clean fuel. AMPK switches on. The cell starts burning fat for energy. A Roman legionary eating barley porridge with Pusca was processing his carbohydrates the way a modern nutritionist would design the meal plan for a type 2 diabetic. The legion knew none of this. They just knew their men marched further on the same grain when vinegar came with it. That is the anti-glycemic effect, and it is only the first layer. The electrolytes are the second. Historians estimate the Roman military salt allowance at roughly 20 grams a day per soldier. A standard cup of Pusca, with a small pinch of added salt, delivers 200 to 300 milligrams of sodium. A 12-ounce bottle of Gatorade delivers about 160 milligrams. Add the trace potassium from wine vinegar, and the Roman ration meets or exceeds the commercial sports drink on electrolyte density. Without the sugar, without the dyes, without the preservatives. The third layer is what acetic acid does to water itself. At Pusca's dilution, roughly 1 to 2% acetic acid, contact time of 30 minutes or more, vinegar delivers about a 3 to 5 log reduction against vegetative waterborne bacteria, cholera, salmonella, shigella, pathogenic E. coli, listeria. Be honest about what it does not do. Pusca will not kill bacterial endospores. It will not kill Giardia or Cryptosporidium cysts. It will not inactivate hepatitis A or norovirus. It is not a modern water filter. It is what a soldier drinking from a questionable stream got instead of what he had no access to, which was nothing. The field hack theory was partly right. It was just missing the rest of the drink. There was one lingering doubt about the biochemistry. A laboratory result is not a battlefield. The Romans could have gotten lucky. Then the archaeology closed the case. At Vindolanda, a Roman fort on Hadrian's Wall in northern England, archaeologists uncovered wooden writing tablets preserved by waterlogged soil for nearly 2,000 years. The tablets, published by Oxford and the British Museum, record garrison supplies alongside military correspondence. Vinegar, acetum, appears on the supply lists next to barley, wine, pork fat, and brine, as a ration line item beside the food that kept the legion alive. The Codex Theodosianus, the compilation of Roman law published in 438 AD, preserves a decree on military provisioning specifying that troops on the move were to receive hardtack biscuits, bread, ordinary wine, and acetum, sour wine, which mixed with water became posca. Pliny the Elder had described the drink 3 centuries earlier in his Natural History, Book 23, noting vinegar's cooling, refreshing, preservative qualities. Cato the Elder, the severe Roman senator who helped destroy Carthage, drank posca on campaign to fight off thirst, according to Plutarch writing around 100 AD. Cato did it deliberately. He was proud of refusing the luxuries the rest of the senatorial class demanded. He drank the same ration as his soldiers. The most surprising reference is imperial. In the Historia Augusta, the 4th century biography of the Emperor Hadrian, chapter 10 records Hadrian reforming military discipline around the year 121 AD by living and eating with his legions. His rations on campaign were pork fat, cheese, and posca. The emperor drank the soldiers' drink, and he did it in public as a statement. And in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, at the crucifixion, a Roman soldier soaks a sponge in vinegar and lifts it to Jesus on the cross. The Greek word is oxos. In modern English Bibles, it becomes sour wine. Raymond Brown's 2-volume commentary, The Death of the Messiah, and Jody Magnus in Stone and Dung, Oil and Spit, both argue the same thing. The soldier at the cross was not mocking a dying man. He was sharing his canteen. He offered Jesus what he himself was drinking on duty. Posca, the standard ration of the Roman army, the smallest mercy a soldier could extend without breaking rank. Pull the timeline together. Plautus references the drink in the 2nd century BC. Cato drinks it in the 2nd century BC. Pliny catalogues it in the 1st century AD. Vindolanda records it in the 2nd century. Hadrian makes it public policy in the same century. The Theodosian Code legislates it in the 4th century. 6 centuries of continuous use across the entire Mediterranean and half of Europe. A drink that outlasted emperors, republics, civil wars, plagues, and the sack of Rome itself. And we replaced it in under a century with 4 products that cost 100 times more and do less work. Now you understand why each ingredient matters. Here is how to assemble them. Ingredient 1. Red wine vinegar. The Romans used acetum, a low-grade wine vinegar, either wine that had soured naturally or wine deliberately fermented past the grape wine stage. For a modern kitchen, a standard bottle of red wine vinegar at 5 to 7% acidity is the closest match. Read the label. You want naturally fermented red wine vinegar, not white distilled vinegar, which has no polyphenols and no residual minerals from the grape. Unfiltered raw red wine vinegar from a traditional producer gets you closer still. A 17-ounce bottle, 500 milliliters, runs $5 to $10 and yields about 40 servings of Pusca. Ingredient 2. Clean water. Any potable water works. The Romans used cistern water, stream water, well water, and trusted the vinegar to do the cleanup. For a modern kitchen drawing treated tap water, the antimicrobial function is less critical, but the ratio still matters for every other effect. Ingredient 3. Salt. A small pinch per cup. This is the electrolyte channel. Unrefined sea salt or rock salt adds sodium, trace potassium, trace magnesium, and the mild flavor balance that keeps the drink from reading as purely sour. Optional ingredient 4. Herbs. Roman and Byzantine recipes in the Geoponica describe adding cumin seed, coriander, fennel, hyssop, or pennyroyal. These were not decoration. Thyme contains thymol, an independent antimicrobial. Coriander adds trace iron. Crush a small pinch of one herb, drop it in the cup, and you are drinking what the Byzantine physicians Aetius of Amida and Paul of Aegina prescribed as Pusca, the Greek descendant of Posca, for patients from the 6th through the 12th centuries. Now the process? It is one step, and it is the step most modern attempts get wrong. Measure 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, about 30 milliliters, into a cup. Add 8 ounces of cold or room temperature water, about 240 milliliters. Add a small pinch of salt. Stir until the salt dissolves. Drink it slowly over the course of a meal, not in one gulp. That is Posca. The first trap is the ratio. Most online recipes miss it in one of two directions. To dilute, a teaspoon of vinegar in a tall glass loses the antimicrobial effect and blunts the glucose response. Too concentrated produces a sour slap no one would drink twice. The Roman ratio, roughly 1:4 for daily drinking and 1:3 on a heavy March day, hits the window where the acetic acid is strong enough to function and mild enough to drink across a working day. The second trap is timing. The anti-glycemic effect depends on vinegar arriving in the stomach at the same time as the carbohydrates in the meal. Chugging Posca between meals and then eating pasta an hour later does not give you the Johnston effect. Sip the drink with the meal. That is how the legions drank it, and that is how the 20% glucose reduction shows up in the data. Safety is simple. Vinegar is acidic. Straight vinegar can damage tooth enamel and irritate the esophagus in people with reflux. Posca diluted at 1:4 is gentle enough that Roman soldiers drank it daily for decades. Rinse your mouth with plain water after drinking. Do not drink it straight from the bottle. Anyone with severe acid reflux should speak to a doctor before adding an acidic drink to a daily routine. Let's be honest about the trade-offs. Posca has no caffeine. If you need a 6 a.m. jolt, coffee still delivers one. Against Giardia, norovirus, or an ultramarathon in triple-digit heat, you want the modern tool. Everywhere else, the Roman cup wins. Daily hydration, stable energy across a working day, glucose control at meals, an antimicrobial buffer, electrolytes at 15 cents a serving. Nothing on the modern shelf comes close. We did not progress past Posca. We were sold 4 products to replace it. The Romans understood something the beverage industry has spent a century making us forget. The best drink is the one that does the most work for the least cost. The recipe is 2 ingredients and a pinch of salt. The biochemistry is confirmed across 3 independent research literatures: glucose regulation, glycogen replenishment, antimicrobial action. And now you have it.